So, this one's gonna be about the education system and education in general and learning in general, and also, the school system to some degree as well. And it is a topic that is somehow like pretty fucked up to talk about, but more after the intro, I guess. More after the intro, as always. And with this being said, hello and welcome back to the next episode of the Self-Development with Tactics podcast. And I'm pretty fucking pumped for this episode. I've actually been looking forward to it since I've been in the train, because this is the moment of time after school when I can just think, especially when I do have to run to the fucking trainway station, which is definitely not just a really, it's not as, it is actually, a bit of a path, to be honest. It is definitely some meters, from my school to the railway station or the railway station, whatever you want to prefer. But this is about education system, and I found a pretty great article from Seth Godin actually on Medium, and it is only a 2-minute read, so it is fairly a short article. But I guess that I'm willing to read the article at first and then talk about it, because often I guess, and also for the people that are listening to it, it might not be such a good thing, it might be even a pretty fucked up thing if I do just, read something and then just talk about something completely else that I'm only thinking about. And I guess that it might also be a pretty good thing also for the people that are just watching the video, that I only go through the text, especially if it is something so quick and so short and so easy that I've decided I'm gonna just read it and then talk about it, because I guess there is just enough to talk about there, because the educational system, indeed, as I've been already saying, is one of the things that is quite difficult to talk about at my point of view, because of different reasons, and I'm gonna talk about these reasons after I've actually finished up with the article, and I'm really pumped. I'm actually really pumped. So as you can see, the article is called "Education is Not the Same Thing as Learning." And this one, as I said, is from Seth Godin from the 11th of April 2019. So it is actually a relatively recent one. He has also some other articles, but they are relatively old. Therefore, I've just sticked with this one. It might not be his best article, but it is the best one that I've found, and also the best one that I can talk about, since I'm a student still and whatsoever. So there's definitely some reason to talk about that. So education is an industrial system. It is a system that's often mandatory. It is based on command and control and compliance. It processes humans and seeks to get them to conform. It involves tests and other unities of measurement, and if you are defective, it processes you again. Not just elementary school, but large-scale higher education, and much of what happens in corporate trainings as well. The alternative is enrollment. Enrollment is what happens when you're already engaged in a journey, when it is something you seek out, something you are eager for. One becomes a baseball fan not through industrial education, which might mean text boxes about baseball, quizzes on the history of baseball, or an A in baseball, but through learning. Voluntary engagement in the process. That's why we built Akimbo, a series of workshops built around learning. My theory is that adult learning is different from mandatory education. That adult learning is peer-to-peer and has few of the tropes and expectations of industrial education. That a video lecture is insufficient to actually learning something. The internet has always thrived on connection. Email, chat, eBay, social media, online dating. These are all tools about connections between and among human beings. I think learning works the same way. Show up because you want to be there. See the others, tell the others, teach the others, and fail safely. Learn from what doesn't work and do what means something to you. And then repeat the whole cycle. Isn't the way we have learned everything that matters, from walking to talking to cooking? That's how humans learn, because they are enrolled. The old MBA has proven to us that this works, that it is more efficient than 2 years of Stanford, more engaging, and opens more doors. In 30 days, surrounded by coaches and fellow travelers from all over the world. So go find the others. P.S. New story about trust. yeah, it is actually a great story about trust. So it is actually, this time I always kind of, I do not always trust, in what authors say the text is gonna be long, or how long you're gonna take for actually going through the text. But I guess it was actually somehow 2 minutes or maybe 3 minutes, but I think that's all right. I guess this was actually pretty right. To maybe explain some things and explain some phrases or words that you might not think because they're very specific for and or to Seth Godin, old MBA, which is basically his learning kind of. It is not a workshop. It is basically like a training, I would say, or it is like a school, and they just did it differently. They are just doing it differently. It is definitely about enrollment. It is definitely about just having fellow travelers, as he just calls them, and not just fellow students. And it is a pretty amazing thing. I like it. Even though I haven't had a look at it, something very important to point out there. I believe in Seth Godin, and I also believe in the work that Seth Godin is doing. It might be the case that he definitely just got himself to a brand status somehow, which is definitely something that I'm not willing to kind of say like, okay, it is not true. Like I'm totally believing in him because, yeah, why am I believing in him? Because he's maybe a brand, because of his books. His name is definitely a brand at my point of view, at least. But I believe in the old MBA. I really believe in it. And I also believe that he's actually getting education the right way. And I also believe that it is actually right that it might be more efficient than 2 years of Stanford. It is an old system. It really is an old system. I do not even want to say. I do not even want to say that it is a bad system. It definitely works for some people. But the thing is, it doesn't work for all the people, and still we are trying to actually get everybody through this system and or get processed, as he actually calls it, pretty well. I've liked this whole metaphor. We are just trying to get everybody through this whole process, through this whole system, but it definitely is not meant for everybody. It definitely is not. For some people, it's actually the right thing. Just besides the whole fact that it might be just a bad way to learn things, just besides that thing, this is only a debate about whether it is actually a good system or if it actually works or if it doesn't. And I really honestly have to say that for some people it just works and for some people it just does not work. It is what it is. If you're just a person that has bad grades, if you're having D's and F's, if you're having just 5s, as we are having in Austria, like we don't just measure it with letters, we're measuring it with what are they called, numbers, yeah. So from 1 to 5 essentially, and in Germany it is from 1 to 6. And if you're having a 5 in one of the classes, then you have to get reprocessed, as he also calls it, which is something that I still really like. And or you do just have to do the class again, and or the year again, or the grade again. And it is a little bit different, I think every school system in every country is slightly different from other countries. There might definitely be some countries where it is just essentially the same. I'm just thinking about Canada and the US. It might be just completely different, I'm just assuming, as I said. But so the first one was actually the old MBA, something that you might know if you know Seth Godin, and something that you will definitely not know if you don't know Seth Godin. The other one is Akimbo. Akimbo, in the first place, if I'm hearing this word Akimbo, it is about his podcast, because Seth Godin has also a podcast, and it is a really amazing podcast. I've been suggesting it over and over again for the past few weeks and maybe even months, and it is an amazing podcast. He's talking about some things that he's interested in and some things that he thinks are worth talking about, and these are definitely things that are very interesting, very interesting if you're a person that just likes to have some more thoughts on marketing, some more thoughts on knowledge in general, because he's often then just talking about some things that happen on a particular day, and this is what a certain country does on this particular day, and it is very interesting. It is a very interesting thing to also see what he's just thinking about, what information is he having, what metaphors is he just trying to use for the information to communicate, basically. It is a really great one. But there's also another thing that is called Akimbo, which are workshops, and I think the podcast is somehow like I don't know, maybe they came up with this idea of the workshops through the podcast, or just vice versa. It could be the thing. But I also believe in the workshops, and I, Have I skipped this one? I've actually skipped something, just as I kind of think about it. I've stepped one particular line that is actually very important, but it's like italic, and it is a little bit of thinner font than the other thing, so I just skipped it, I guess. So if you want to learn to build a boat, take a workshop. And he's also having just maybe multiple podcast episodes on this whole topic, educational system, school system, and all those things. And it is pretty interesting, because he's also talking about history things, and why we're actually having this system whatsoever, which I'm also going to recap now. But if you want to have the full experience, please search the podcast episode. I unfortunately can't link it down just because I don't know, I just don't remember what it actually was. Something that I also want to point out is that, this is something that only the YouTube watchers now can contribute of. Just look at him. First of all, I really like his style. First of all, I just like the way he's just clothed, if this is actually a word, I don't fucking know. I just like it. It is just something that not a lot of people are doing. Not a lot of people are going to buy themselves a fucking yellow glasses. Nobody's going to do that, but he is doing it. He is often just wearing especially in terms of colors, some things that just pop out, just some things that you will see. He's just he's definitely an individual, and he's also not hiding anything from anybody. He's just who he is. Just look at his shoelaces. They are fucking pink. People are going to see that, but he's wearing it. He's just really, he's rocking it basically. I just find it amazing. But the thing that I initially wanted to point out is that I believe that this might be a class, this might be just from Akimbo, or this might be from the old MBA. I don't know. But the thing is, he is in the middle of the whole crowd. It is not like, okay, he's the famous author and he's the famous guy. He is in the crowd. He is next to the people. He is just basically in the people, in theory. Also practically, but just, the way. The way that I'm willing to go. It is really interesting. It is really amazing. It is just a very inspiring guy, not only just because of what he's doing essentially, but also because what he's talking about, because he's essentially talking about a lot of things that some people are not thinking and or talking about, which is very interesting, first of all, and also very important. And as he talks about the system, is basically the first paragraph, and I'm going to recap it, is basically just saying everything that he's talking about or thinking about the school system. It is a system that is often mandatory. It is based on command and control and compliance. It processes humans and seeks to get them to conform. It involves tests and other unities of measurement. And if you're defective, it processes you again. And it tries and tries and tries. And for some people, as I said, it might work. And for some people, it might just not work. Because some people are just good students, and some people are definitely not good students. But if you're not a good student, it doesn't really mean that you're fucking dumb. It just means that this is not the way that you're willing to learn. This is not the way that is just best for you to learn. You might not be the person that is listening to somebody that is just talking about something and learn something. You might not be such a person, and you might not just be interested in what this person is talking about, something that he also been talking about. We, in general, only learn things up to our point where we actually attended school that we were interested in. And if there is something that you are particularly interested in, you're also going to learn it. And you're also going to feel enrolled to learn it. You're also going to feel good about learning it. But if it is something that you're just not interested in, if it is something that you just don't like also, then you're not going to learn it. Just because you're not having fun doing it, just because you don't seek the information, you don't seek the wisdom. Therefore, you're just not going to do it. It is what it is. And you can force yourself, definitely. You can force yourself to learn some things, to do some things, to think about some things. But in the end, everything is way easier if you're having fun, if it is your passion and if it is something that you like to be doing. Also, one of the reasons why I do just really, really, really hope that people are working on something as their labor, to make their money, to make their living, that they work on something that they actually like to do. Because working on something that you don't like to do is a waste of time, basically, because you're working on something for 8 hours or even more. If you want to be very successful, then you're gonna have to just work more. And you're gonna do this for just, let's say, 10 hours, 12 hours, 18 hours, as actually Elon Musk was working on Tesla, I guess, in his just, I don't know, in his highest peak state. It is just what he did, and it is what he had to be doing, because you now know, and you now can see where Tesla is. Tesla is now a brand. Tesla is something that people are willing to drive. Tesla is something that people are willing to use. And it is amazing because it is a really new brand. It might be founded in 2010 or something, but the thing is, let's talk about BMW. Let's talk about Audi. Let's talk about VW. Let's talk about Skoda. Let's talk about all these brands, that have been around. Porsche. Let's talk about all these brands that have been around for several fucking years. Or even decades. I think it is actually decades. And it is amazing. Tesla is now a brand. Tesla is something that people are considering to buying. This is just amazing. It is great. But something, that I'm also willing to talk about. And this is what I meant by talking about the educational system is something that is relatively difficult to do, because we human beings are actually always seeking and always looking for some things that are somehow making us happy. And it is a really bad thing in terms of information, in terms of actually just getting to know the reality and getting to know what is really the truth. Because if you only just search for things that you want to see, search for things that you want to hear, search for things that you want to see, or listen to, whatever it is, when you're searching for something that you want to see, want to have, want to hear, want to something, then you're only gonna find those things. Which means that you're having an opinion on something. You're thinking about something in a very particular way. And then you're just Googling it, and okay, you're gonna find something that is actually like, okay, the things that you're talking about are definitely right. The things that you're thinking, talking, that you're doing, they are right. Keep doing them, because we also believe that what you are doing is great. But the thing is, you're also going to find another website, another blog, another video where the people are like, well, what you're doing is wrong. There is a better way. You could do something different. What you're doing might not be the best thing for you. And then you're going to be like, well, yeah, okay, the other website was like, or the other person on the blog was like, it is great what I'm doing. You should not be doing this. You should search for the truth and not what you want to hear and want to see and want to have and whatsoever. It is very important, and something that I'm definitely, I've heard it somewhere, I don't know, and I've kind of, maybe I've been listening to a podcast and there the people have been talking about it, I don't know. I really cannot recap, unfortunately. But really search for the truth. Really do not search for the things that you want to see. Of course, if what you're thinking about, if your opinion is actually kind of the truth, then it is amazing. It is great. But also search for the negative. Also search for the other opinions. Also search for the quite opposite opinion. And then use both informations. Use both streams of information and then create the truth out of it. If it is then actually the truth, maybe it is just complete bullshit what the opposite is saying. Could also be the case. But definitely also have a look at the opposite to kind of balance it out somehow. And therefore, it is also a pretty fucked up thing to talk about the educational system, because, all the students are like, well, yeah, okay, there is another reason, because Chris said on the SDWT podcast, okay, school is fucked up, because Seth Godin said, okay, people only use school to just make workers. Something that I'm going to talk about in a second. And then you're going to be like, well, yeah, school is fucked, school is a shitty thing and whatsoever. Yeah. It might not be the best system. It was never meant to be the best system, essentially, or maybe. And I don't know, just also being like, okay, school is fucked, I'm not going to attend school because I hate it and whatever. I don't know if it's best, if it is the best thing you can do. I don't know if it is actually good if you're just learning things in a different way. I don't know. I don't know. I might be thinking this way just because it has always been like that. It has always been like in school. People have always gone to school. It has always been a thing. It's like, I don't know, a tradition nearly, and something that people are just doing. But what I just was talking about is that Seth Godin in his podcast was also talking about school, the school system as being meant something different, or they just created the school system with a particular thought in mind, and this thought might or might not be in your favor. It depends on your opinion, I guess, because I don't know. I really do not want to kind of narrow the path of your thoughts so that you only see my opinion or how I think and how Seth Godin thinks and sees the world and whatsoever. But school was meant to make workers, basically, to just make the exact same human beings, essentially. In theory, in really theory, of course there's going to be better students. Of course there's going to be worse students. And as I said, if you are not a good student, it does not mean that you're dumb. It just means that you're not a good student. And that's fucking it. Does not say anything about your IQ, does not say anything about your work ethic. And that's it. It merely says that you are a bad student, that you are not a good student. And if you're not a good student, then of course you can also live that. You can live the life of a bad student. You're just not a good student. And it doesn't also mean that you're not going to be successful. Because the thing is like, okay, you can show a highly amount of effort in the real world and not in the school world, essentially. Also because like the school world is definitely not the real world. The school world is like, okay, here you're having this, here you're having this, now make something. What I mean is that the school world is basically like definitely not the real world. It's quite the opposite. In the real world, everything is different. Everything is different than it is in a school world. And therefore it is like also, like I'm attending a graphic design school. I'm meant to learn something that I can then use in the real world. And I can definitely also see, and this is also the really beauty of having internships, because you then see what it is like in the real world, that yeah, it is definitely different in the real world. In the real world, it is about money. Most often, and if you are in an agency, if you are in a graphic design agency, it is going to be about money, and if your work isn't done, you're fucked because your boss needs it. You might even get fired. If you're not done in school with your work, you might be doing it at home. You might be doing it just for the next week, you might be just having your logo done, I don't know, just 2 weeks after you actually had to finish it, because the teacher is like, well, yeah, just give it to me in 2 weeks, just give it to me the next time, in the next lesson. But it doesn't work the way in the real world. Therefore, it's like, yeah, school is a different world. It is not the real world. And it says just that you're not good in the school world, maybe. But yeah, I still believe in education. I still believe that education is something that is very important. But something that Seth Godin also is talking about, and something that I also deeply believe in, is that we do not have to memorize things. There's no need in the current system, in the current way the world is, that we actually have to memorize things. We don't need that. We have Google. We can Google things. It is way more efficient. It is way faster, of course. If you need the information, and if you need the information to be able to think, because I somehow believe in I believe in knowing the basics. I do not believe in knowing exactly everything. I think this is just really unnecessary. I think that you should not know every date, when something happened, that you should not know every guy that did something, every girl that did something, every queen, every, I don't know, prince, every whatever. I think this would be really unnecessary. But I guess that you should have the proper vocabulary to understand the basics and to be able to think about it. Because if you don't know anything about it and you just would have to Google everything, then you clearly can't make up your mind for certain things. You can't think about certain things because you just don't know how it would work somehow, basically. And this is the point that I'm willing to make. Like, of course, you're going to need the basics. Of course, it is going to be like, yeah, you need the basics. You need the basic vocabulary to be able to do something. In maths, you obviously need plus and minus or sum and dividing things and multiplying things and whatever. You need these things. They are important, but you do not need to know every formula. It is not essential for you to being able to just do maths. You don't need it. And therefore it is like really unnecessary to also memorize all of them. I just was playing around with, such a thing, and I thought like I have broken it, something. I've just destroyed it, basically, but it is, I think, not the case. So this is cool, and this is the educational system, and this is what I think about it, and this is what Seth Godin is thinking about it. But something that I do truly have to point out is that it is definitely not the whole thing that Seth Godin is just also talking about in the podcast episode. In the podcast episode, it is way more in depth, I have to say, and way more in detail, and it's just way more. It is basically just way more, and that's good, and that's amazing. It is nice. It is truly nice. But yeah, just because I've always had it, in the past few days, we're also gonna go through another Quora question. And it is gonna be a good question, I hope. I'm really hoping to find a pretty good question. A good question that gives a lot of value and brings a lot of value to you and to me and all the other people. But yeah. What exactly is hard work? It's actually a good question, and I guess it is more like a philosophical one, and it's definitely more like, yeah, it depends on how you think about things and how you think about the world and what your world views are in general, at my point of view at least, and really my point of view. Never mind. How can I become more intellectual? I don't know. Isn't there like what is your life's philosophy or philosophy concentrated in one line? This is a pretty good question, and especially because I believe, and I just truly know, that everyone is thinking about life in a different way. Everyone thinks about life in just because everybody has different values. Everybody has different things to look for, different things that are important to this particular person, and everybody has different preferences. I believe in karma. I believe in being a nice person. I believe in I also believe, just doing it in one line, I'm not going to do that. It's not going to be possible. But I, in general, also find Stoicism is pretty accurate in terms of what I also believe in. So I've been just doing a lot of things on Stoicism. Just look for it. You're going to find it definitely on the channel, especially the little book of Stoicism is a good one, which is basically like an introduction, the whole Stoicism thing. I would definitely suggest you to go through this podcast episode and also through the YouTube video if you want to have the visual content as well. But I believe in karma. I believe in just being a nice person. I believe in trying to be the nicest and best person, most generous person that I can be. It might mean something different for everybody, something that I also kind of can think of. And I don't know, I do just believe in being a nice person. And I also believe in doing things that other people are not doing, which is or might be the reason why I'm sitting here, and I'm actually recording this episode. It is because not a lot of people were able to get successful at what I'm doing. This is also the reason why I'm working out 5 times a day. Not a day, but a week, because there's not a lot of people that are having a pretty great physique, but I want to have it. I maybe want to have it because a lot of people don't have it. I might be willing to just get successful at what I'm doing because just not a lot of people were able to. I might be willing to, and this is definitely a fact, I am willing to be successful and be rich just because not a lot of people got to it. It is pretty interesting, It is pretty interesting how I think about things at my point of view, because it is often really based on just other people were not able to get there. And this is why I'm willing to do it, because maybe I think it is not really about being a role model. I think it is just about doing it, just about proving maybe to myself. It is, I think, not really about the other people, that I am just able to do it. I am just able to do it. It is not about just proving anything to anyone. It is merely about showing to myself that I'm able to do that, and that it is in general able, that we are in general able to do things. I don't know, I'm able to record a podcast episode every single day. It works for me. I'm not saying that you should do a 30-minute episode. I'm not even saying that you should do a 10-minute episode. I'm saying that you should do a podcast. Maybe, if this is something that works for you. If not, do something else. But we are all able to do that. We are all able to build something for ourselves, for our living, and also for other people, essentially, and then make a living off of it. We are all able, in theory, to do that. Maybe this is just something that I want to show, something that I want to get into people's minds, that we are all able to do that. And, I often see that people are complaining about things, and if you want to have a great physique, work out and eat healthy. And that's it. And if you're going to have the craving of eating chocolate, okay, no, don't eat it. But if you're eating it, then also don't complain about how you feel and how you look like, because you've eaten this piece of chocolate. It is what it is. You shouldn't then complain about it. But I hope this was actually a good episode. I do have somehow mixed feelings about it. Just because it is and was somehow different, I guess. It was a fairly short article, and it is fairly an topic that is very difficult to talk about, as I said before. But I hope that you've gotten some information, also some inspiration as well, something that I'm also trying to do, and also definitely entertainment. It might not also be just the most entertaining episodes, and I'm very sorry for that. I'm trying to make it better. I'm really trying to make it better, and also maybe just trying to be more interesting and trying to, I don't want to say act more, but being more of an interesting person to watch and or maybe listen to. But I think it is more about watching rather than listening, because listening is definitely, I think, actually a good experience, But my opinion. I wish you the best health, happiness, and also success. And I also have to thank you, for actually being with me. But I also have to I wish you the best health, happiness, and also success. And also wish you I can't even remember my line. I wish you the best health, happiness, and also success. Yeah, it is what it is. And I really also have to tell you that you can listen to this particular episode also as an audio-only version, which means that you can just listen to it. You can just walk your dog outside there. You can just, fly in a plane, and you can still listen to this particular episode, because 30 minutes are fairly long to watch. I know that. I understand that it is nearly a fucking movie. Therefore, I'm having the podcast. Therefore, everything is also available as an audio-only version, because then you can consume it wherever you are, whatever you're doing. It is just amazing in my point of view. It's just really good way to consume something. It is basically like passive consumption. But think about your legacy. Please think about your legacy. Theoretically, about your karma also, if you want to say it like this. And because we can totally shape it. Something that I still want to point out is that no matter how nice we are, no matter how generous we are, there's still going to be someone, potentially, theoretically, on the world that dislikes us or even hates us. It is what it is. We can't do anything about it. And think about your purpose. And 3 questions that might show you your purpose are: why are you here? What are you trying to change? And what is bothering you and or pissing you off the most? Very, very interesting and great questions if you ask yourself them, because you can, I think, figuring out your purpose might take some while, but you might also come up with a new business idea, because businesses often started with, something that the founders or founder didn't like. It is something that has been just a really common thing I have seen in the past few months, I guess, or something. But thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for actually going through this with me and staying with me and being with me. It means a lot for me. It just means totally a lot to me. It is insane. It is insane that I'm seeing that things are doing relatively well, on YouTube at least. On YouTube, everything is doing quite well. The podcast is fine, but I'm happy. I'm actually happy, and this is something that I wish you are as well.